Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, ABC Design, Introduction to Designing Marketing Graphics. Whether you're joining us from your home office, your shop, between clients, or, your space, we're just super glad that you're here with us today. So to kick things off, let's just start with a very quick poll. So I'm just gonna launch that here super quick. Perfect, it's already on the screen. So it says, what is your biggest design challenge right now? Is it staying consistent with your brand? Is it making visuals look professional, finding the right templates or fonts, creating content quickly? That's personally my one. Or maybe you don't know where to start, or you have another one. So just let us know in the chat. I'm gonna leave the poll there on the screen for everyone to answer, and then we will share the results later. And just remember that you can use the chat throughout today's session to share your thoughts and questions. Awesome. But before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we gather. So Business Link acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional lands, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. Before we dive in, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Please make sure that you submit your questions using the Q&A feature so that we don't miss them. The webinar is being recorded as per usual, so a link with the recording will be shared via email, and it will also be made available on our YouTube channel afterwards. Closed captions are also available, so just click the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to activate them. And with that being said, welcome again to ABC Design, Introduction to Design and Marketing Graphics. So in today's digital world, visuals are not just decoration, they're communication. Like way that we design and we present our brand, it tells us a story about who we are, what we value, and how we connect with our audience. So today's session is all about making that story shine. Even if you're not a designer, that's really important. So you will learn how to use Canva, my personal favorite app for designing ever, to create simple, eye-catching visuals that reflect your brand and make your business stand out online. So my name is Linda Posada, and I'm the event specialist here at Business Link. If this is your first time joining us for a Business Link webinar, welcome. Business Link is a government-funded nonprofit that helps very small businesses start, grow, and thrive. We offer free one-on-one support, market research, training, and webinars like this one, and resources to entrepreneurs at any stage. I'm very excited to introduce to these presenters, Ryan and Megan from 910 Incorporated. 910 is a very passionate and creative team that is dedicated in helping small businesses elevate their brands and become self-sufficient in their digital marketing strategies. So today they're going to walk us through how to design branded graphics and marketing visuals in Canva with no design degree required. So Ryan and Megan, thank you so much for being here today. I will pass things over to you.
Thank you, Linda. I'll just share my screen here and get us started. Give me a moment. There we are. Megan, we're good? Burke, thank you.
Go.
All right, everyone. So thanks for joining again, especially if you're new and this is your first webinar. Welcome to learning session. We're going to geek out about graphic design in Canva. And if you've been with us before, you know that this is a series that is an extension of our training academy. And so at 910, we have a training academy where we work with small, medium businesses in provinces, and we help them with all things under the umbrella of digital marketing, which includes Canva and design, and increasingly is including a lot of integration with AI. So although today's presentation isn't directly about AI, you'll see that if you're using Canva, there's lots of items that we talk about in our training academy, such as brand. So real quickly, 910, we're a small, lean, mean team located in Grand Prairie, Alberta. That said, we work remotely. Megan, for example, is part of our full-time team, but she's in workforce, and we're here to support small businesses. So our mission, I always like to talk a little bit about this. We're really here to support small, medium businesses and entrepreneurs in the province. So our goal is to help you establish your brand, establish your online presence, and then teach you the skills to manage your own digital marketing. And so there's a lot of tools of trade that make that a lot easier. My biggest challenge when it comes to design is usually finding the time. Canva is a significant time saver and it allows non-designers like me the ability to do beautiful brand compliant design. This assumes you have a brand and a brand foundation. Once you do, you'll find that Canva is a wonderful tool. And I actually just want to highlight both Megan and I are not classically trained graphic designers. That said, we both can and do design beautiful branded designs on a regular basis using our Canva brand kits. So on screen right now, just showing a couple of panels that represent our agency. So we are a branding agency, and this is usually where we start. Then we get into design. You know, you need stuff design, your business cards, your pop-up trade show banners, maybe vehicle wraps, certainly lots of social media graphics. Canva is a great tool for that. We also do print and websites and marketing, and then ultimately we have our training academy. So most of what we share through our webinars with Business Link is an extension of our training academy. And so for today's session, it's all about graphic design. So I will hand it over to Megan, and Megan, do your thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. And Linda for that great introduction. There we go. You should be able to see my screen now. Okay. Perfect. So very often, leading our training academy, a lot of the things that I hear around graphic design there's a few things. One, it's just art. It's, art with purpose. That is not necessarily true. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the other thing is that there's a difference between technical graphic design and things like logos and visual brands and identities and being able to design marketing graphics, right? So there are things that you can and should do yourself. And there are things that you should probably hire a professional designer to do because they're a lot more technical and require a lot more knowledge and background. I certainly wouldn't try and design a logo myself because I don't have the educational background to be able to make something that's meaningful and impactful the way that our design team does in their day-to-day roles. So graphic design that we're talking about, especially in the marketing space, creating marketing graphics for your social media or for website, email banners, those kinds of things. It's designed with a very specific purpose. It isn't art. Art doesn't follow the same rules. It is artistic, but it is not necessarily art. So there are conventions and rules that you have to follow when we're talking about graphic design. It can be very, very technical and challenging, especially when we introduce things like color theory and image psychology and things like that, and just understanding technically how to use the tools as well. So there are certain things that you should hire a designer for, things like your print materials, the pop-up trade show banners like Ryan mentioned, or the tablecloths that we can design branded. Those types of things require specific tools to be able to do properly. And so I would definitely encourage hiring somebody to do those, but things like your social media, definitely let's talk about how to do those yourself. So for our purposes, graphic design is really focused on the structure and the storytelling, the message that you're trying to impart to your audience. And how do we do that effectively? Well, one, it comes back to our brand. We have to understand what that message actually is that we're trying to share, as well as the brand foundations visually. What are our logos and our colors that we're trying to use in our day-to-day graphics? It's also about calls to action, right? We want to make sure that we give people something to do. In marketing, in social media in particular, there's a really big balance between a structured graphic, like an infographic, for example, and sharing about an event that you hosted with your business, right? Sharing photos from that event. Those two things are very different, but both should be included in your marketing strategy. And so understanding kind of that balance and how and when to use that structured storytelling and using those calls to action effectively in your graphics are really important. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ABC design method, which is the kind of 3 simple rules to follow with designing marketing graphics. But first, I want to talk a little bit about platforms. So the design platforms that you can use, there's a lot out there. Canva, our personal favorite, right? Canva's been around for many years. I'm not being paid by Canva to tell you to go use it, but it is the primary design software for non-designers, for people like you and I who are just trying to create beautiful marketing graphics for our business and don't don't necessarily have the technical skill set, right? There are a lot of others out there. Adobe Express is a newer one. It's the Adobe version of Canva. They've launched that in the last 5 years, and it's still growing, and there's still some kind of technical glitches with it every now and again. It's again simple to use. It's the same fundamental structure as Canva, where you have your brand kit, you have the templates that you can use, and you've got your drag and drop editor. But in my opinion, Canva is a lot more sophisticated, so it's generally going to be a little bit better. On the flip side, there's a lot of really technical things that you probably have heard people say, oh, use Adobe Illustrator or use InDesign. Those are going to be the leading softwares for professional designers. Those are much more powerful. You're going to be able to do a lot more, but they're a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to learn because they're so technical. So for us, the primary design software is Canva. And Ryan, I just want to, well, perfect. I'll pass it over to you.
Well, no, seed me with the question and I'll go where I was going to go. But what were you going to say?
I was going to launch into a little bit of a conversation about AI because there's a lot of AI integrations now with Canva, and how do we use those appropriately, and what does that kind of look like? So that was going to be the next direction of the conversation.
Yeah, perfect segue. Quick question. Canva does have a free version. We recommend Canva Pro, which is 149 Canadian per year. Well worth it if you are an owner, a manager, an entrepreneur needing to do branded design. So Canva, the first thing to say is like Canva is a all-in-one design tool that allows you to design graphics, create posters, add layers, fonts, pictures, etc. You start to use the new power user, you find that other tools that you have to stack together. And really importantly, when we design logos and branding for organizations, we don't design them in Canva. We use best in class design tools, Illustrator, to design the assets, the logos, the font, the pattern. Once those are constructed, we do put them into Canva. We build out what's called a Canva brand kit. So you can think of Canva as drag up as a tool, allows you to put it together a nice design, but it is still not the design tool. The professional will actually design the assets, the elements that you're going to be working with. And so if you are just really getting started, it is that kind of all-in-one tool. But as you become a power user, you're going to find many other tools in your toolkit that you'll stack together. With that said, Canva is getting increasingly powerful, and this is a good segue into AI. So it has a lot of tools built in that are powered by AI in the background, and they're just kind of magically, they work for you, and you don't need to know how it works, and that's great. So you upload a photo, and I'm like, well, I would love if the background was removed because I just want that picture of Megan, and I want that beautiful desk background behind her removed. So there's a one-click removal. Or I have a photo that's a tall photo, but I need it to be landscape because I want to use it for a web banner. So then it has the ability to just magically extend it automatically and it'll just fill in the space. And you're like, wait a minute, I need a picture of a happy family in a park with a daughter and a dog of a golden retriever. And you just can't find that photo in stock. So you can just ask Canva to create an image and prompt it in stock photos. So there's hundreds of examples where you can run the tool mostly through a natural language interface. So what's great about these AI integrations is they tend to be really simple natural language. You have to get proficient at speaking to the AI through natural language. We call this prompting, but all of the tools are getting much better at incorporating these AIs. So if a professional designer is using Illustrator, inside that much more complex tool, they can use AI to get more out of the tool and to create photos or to do the photo extension. But these more simple tools for the general audience, like Canva, is seeing a lot of these integrations built in as well.
I, just
Yeah, back to you. I'll hold it at that.
Yeah, just to jump in there with what you're saying about some of the AI capabilities with some of the advanced tools, even. I have actually found, and this is just kind of if you're shopping around for what tools to use, the Adobe AI tools aren't even quite as powerful as some of the options that are available in Canva or ChatGPT. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. If you're looking at shopping around for different options, AI being a priority, AI in the design softwares are not necessarily the best. Just a note as well. All right. So Ryan, you had mentioned as well that Canva is introducing a integration with ChatGPT.
Yep.
So ChatGPT has previously given you the graphics, which you can't necessarily edit, but now there is going to be the option. Have they launched it yet?
Yeah, they did. Just and I can share my screen real quickly here. This was last week, if I'm not mistaken, maybe less than 2 weeks ago. So, ChatGPT used to have plugins, and long story short, it didn't really work well, and they sort of deprecated that. So now they've built in these connections. So I'm just showing an example here. So my prompt: design a social media graphic for Instagram. My company, Acme Dog Cleaners promotion follows here. So I'm giving some general direction. I'm just doing this for demo here. And then, very importantly, before I hit enter, I clicked on this little plus button, and down under the more, you have what are called connections. And so, three of the connections that they're implementing and pushing right now are connections to Canva, Expedia, and Spotify. So, Expedia would be able to, book directly into hotels right from within ChatGPT. In the context of Canva, what happens now is these four examples of graphics that were created. Normally, this would be a graphic. That's what's called a raster image. I can't edit it. I can't download it and then click on the leaf and change it from orange to pink, or there's none of this. It's just a flattened graphic that I can't do anything with. So now what happens is you have the ability to open it in Canva. Once in Canva, this will then have multiple layers where the dog is separate from the leaves, and the background colors of green and beige and white are all changeable, so you can edit it. But there's limitations, and this is a good example. Open in Canva. 404 not working. So it's an error, right? So quite often when you have new tools that are introduced, they don't work consistently or they're buggy, they're going to be improved. And so when you go to use it, you'll see very clearly that it's listed in beta, which means testing. And you can see that in today's example, I went to demonstrate it to you and it's not even working for me. And that's kind of common. So if you're on the edge of getting all of the best new features out of ChatGPT and you're a bit of a power user, I encourage you to play with this integration. But for right now, generally speaking, images that are created in Canva, they're not editable. This is an example where now images will be editable through Canva with limitations, and certainly they're gonna improve the functionality of this over time.
Perfect. A question in the chat there. Can we show a design done in Canva compared with Illustrator or InDesign? So we won't be looking at a direct comparison, but visually there really aren't many differences to a graphic designed in one or the other. The big difference is on the back end in quality and resolution and things like that. So if you're looking for something for print, for example, there's a very specific resolution that it has to be at. And Canva doesn't necessarily have the capability to, depending on what you're looking at designing, right?
Yeah,
So
and I just
yeah,
want to specify one other big difference is when a designer designs something in Canva or Illustrator, that that design may have five, six, seven, 20 different elements that are all different layers, different components. They're all adjustable and editable. You can add, you can remove, you can change. When AI tools like Midjourney and ChatGPT create an image, it's just one flattened image, kind of like I said. That will change over time, but the current state is when you get an image from AI, it is what it is, and if you want to modify specifics of it, you just can't really edit at that specific level. So you really need these more powerful granular tools at this point.
yeah, exactly. All right. Um, Keep us moving along here. I wanted to talk about the ABC design principle. So this is what this means. A is for parent. When we're talking about marketing graphics, it's really important to ensure that your message is clear, especially for social media. We are in an age where people scroll really fast, really quickly, and if something doesn't catch your eye, nothing, we're not going to stop and look, right? Your audience is going to get distracted and move on, right? So it's really important that when you're designing, your message is very clear right off the bat. So these ways for message. Got a little icon that has a question and those check boxes, right? That's a visual representation of what the message is. Let's discuss. Let's talk about a topic, right? So we have a visual reinforcement of what People are very intuitive, whether we know it or not. There's a lot of things happen in our subconscious, and so it's important to make sure that what you're using aligns with the message. There's also a visual hierarchy in just have a there, and we have our call to action even lower, right? So that would be a visual hierarchy of what's most important on the page, right? And this is very much reflected in website design as well, or print graphics, anything that you see out in the world. You'll start to notice the visual hierarchy that happens on a billboard, right? What is the main piece of information that I'm supposed to be looking at? And that's the first thing that typically your eyes are drawn to. And that's part of making your message clear, is making sure that that hierarchy reflects what the most important thing is. There's also the typography. So Ryan had mentioned at the beginning, when we're talking about brand, there's a lot of things that go into a visual brand. The type of text that you're using is included in that. So that's your fonts, the weight of the font, and all of that should be defined in your visual brand guide, right? So I'm not going to be using a random font in there that doesn't reflect who I am as a brand, right? I'm going to be using the things that are structured within the rules for design in my visual graphics. So that's also really important to recognize. And then of course we have the calls to action. We as people like to have something to do. It's very, very easy to just say, oh, that's a pretty picture, and then scroll on. As marketers, our job is to get our audience engaged, right? Keep people within our ecosystem, get them to be interacting with us. And so what does that look like? It depends on what the image or the graphic, the topic is, right? For this example, share your thoughts in the comments. It's simple, it's direct, it's clear. We're asking them to do one thing, right? We're not asking them to phone and set up an appointment and then confirm their appointment, and then all of those elements are not in here, right? It's just one thing that we're asking them to do. Brian or Linda, any thoughts on how you would make a message apparent in a graphic?
Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, for sure. So what I would do is exactly what you have here on the screen. So making sure that the title is always bold, maybe with a color that makes a higher contrast than the other colors that we may have on the graphic. And then for the other ones, I would use something like smaller, or maybe not bold, or maybe italics or something like that. So yeah, to create that contrast and grab people's attention.
Full difference, absolutely.
Yeah, as you were speaking, Megan, I made a point about just that in the chat. I said sometimes the use of a well-chosen icon and image and illustration can convey one icon can convey the concept of, that might take a sentence or two. And so, as you know, when we're designing logo and visual brand identity packages for clients, we'll quite often take time to design infographics and icons that represent their products, their services, key concepts or differentiations, so that when they're creating a promotion on social media, they use that icon, and that icon very quickly anchors the person to that concept, which might be a promotion or a sale, or it could be anything about a service. And so, we use icons obviously quite often in our own marketing, but we try to make sure our clients are set up so that you don't have to design the icon, but that icon has been pre-designed and it's available for you in your Canva brand kit, and you can quickly just drag it onto your graphic, which of course Canva makes that drag and drop design very easy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at a really quick example here. So this image, there's no visual hierarchy here. We have Broaden Horizons Beechwood Photography Walk Club. I don't know what that means. I have no idea if this is a walk club, if it's a photography club that's going on a walk. I don't know what this is. So if we fix it, now we have a visual hierarchy. We know that the club is Beechwood Photography Walk Club. That's the organization that's putting this out. And they're saying broaden your horizons, right? Come join us. Broaden your horizons with the Beechwood Photography Walk Club. There's also a very centering element where we have this frame that's bringing people right into the middle of this image, where we understand that within that frame is the important information that we're supposed to know. Again, when it's psychological, we have that subtlety, right? Or we may not understand what is happening consciously, but it's there, right? Our brains are processing that. A question in the chat there, why is the title so small and the message so large? So in this example here, this isn't necessarily quote unquote the title. This is just what the club is called. So they wanted to have their name on it. Oops, sorry. Back up a little bit. There we go. This is the key message that they wanted to share with their audience, right? The broaden horizons is the thing that they really wanted to make sure that people understood. That was why it's the biggest, and that's where the visual hierarchy comes in, is that's the focal point. They didn't necessarily want to make their name the focal point, even though they could have, but this was the key message that they wanted people to see and understand. All right. So B, A, B, C. B is for balance. This is where a lot of the practice comes in. I know when I first started using Canva and creating marketing graphics, my balance was not very good. I will readily admit that. I've gotten a lot better with practice and with time. But some things that you should be aware of with balancing graphics is things like your layers. So in any design software that you use, Canva is really easy to find the layers and manage your layers. There's going to be elements that layer on top of one another. So we've got our background, and then we've got elements that layer on top of each other. If you remember from the very beginning title slide, we had the title of the webinar and there was a red box behind it, right? So those are the layers that we're working with. All of those are individual elements, but it's really important to recognize each layer provides some sort of visual texture or visual difference that helps with the balance. One thing that's really important to remember, and this is a rule that I see a lot of non-designers, and I very much fell into this trap when I first started as well, was taking advantage of the quote unquote white space or the negative space in a graphic. People get very overwhelmed very quickly. We're so used to seeing well-balanced graphics that when something comes up where it's overwhelming, there's too much on the screen or too little, conversely, then we get bored or we get overwhelmed and we just scroll past. We don't process any of that. There are a lot of great examples out on the internet of poorly done, really messy, convoluted graphics. But take advantage of that space. It's there for you to use. Even our eyes need to breathe. So that is a really important thing where we have all of this negative space. There's not really anything there. We have a textured background, but there's no key elements in amongst here. It's really our main message. And then we have some textural elements with our icons in there, layered in there, right? Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Just responding to some comments in the chat. The slide here says ask a designer, but just kind of building on that idea. Megan, you said something great, which is practice, practice, practice. So if you're new to Canva, or even if you've been using it for a while, you'll design something and it just something feels off, or you're like, you think it's perfect, but someone else sees it and like, but that's busy or it's whatever, like the point is it's a bit subjective, and you're always going to benefit from asking someone with a design expertise. But a bit of a tip here is you can actually ask ChatGPT or Gemini or these large language models. But again, the quality of your question matters a lot. So if you just upload a graphic and say, what do you think about this? It'll give you an answer, but it doesn't have enough context. If you say, here's a graphic that I'm creating for this specific purpose, for this specific audience, and by the way, here's my brand guide so you can see what my design principles are. With all that in mind, can you provide a constructive critique about my graphic and how I might improve it? And it might say it looks a little bit busy. I would suggest XYZ. It'll do a good job with that. If you've uploaded a brand guide, your brand guide might suggest that your dominant font is Roboto, and it would recognize that you don't seem to be using that font. So that's a piece of direction that it'll give because you gave it that additional context. So this is a nice little hack. If you don't have a professional designer to ask ChatGPT, and you'll get a good response of that, again, depending on the quality of your question.
Yeah. You now have a professional designer in your pocket, which is fun. Some really kind of key things about the balance as well is, and this is something that I even see um, people who've gone through schooling for marketing or for design do every now and again as well, is margins. Um, all of your important information should stay within your margins of your document. And in Canva, when you are designing and you have your drag and drop and you're moving things around, you will see little purple lines popping up. You'll see there's a box around the edge that shows up. Those are your margins. Your logo, your text, any information that you want people to read should stay within that. We've kind of been programmed with how our books are printed with margins, how we are using documents that have space around the edge. But if something's squished way up to the side, we're expecting more. We feel like there should be more content there. And so we're trying to kind of scroll around and all of a sudden there's no more. And it really throws us as an audience, as the viewer, kind of in a lurch, and we're confused and disjointed about what this is, right? So having the important information within that little internal box, that internal area, right? This text is not squished right up to the top. Yes, we have the icons that are right at the sides, but that's not the important information. Those are design elements. Those are things that create visual texture. That's not what necessarily somebody should be focusing on. So it's okay for it to be on the edges. The important information, the text, the title, all of that, that's right focused in the middle. And again, your logo should be included in that if you're adding your logo to the design. But yes, there are a lot of really fun little features, automatic features in Canva. The alignment tools are one of them, which brings me to my next point is alignment. You'll notice here we have this title is center aligned to the middle of the graphic, but we have these two pieces of text which are left aligned. So in Canva, there's a really fun feature called the auto alignment tool. So if you go into your design and you select the elements that you're trying to align, go into your position, there will be a little box that says align. And there's center, left, top, middle, bottom, right. And all that does is it automatically aligns your elements to that point, right? So if you select the top, all of the elements are going to zoom to the top of the box, right? So that has been a really incredibly helpful tool for me rather than trying to manually align all of the elements to exactly the left point or exactly that middle point. I can select the elements, click that button, and everything auto aligns. And so it's really, really helpful to create things that are beautiful and balanced. That's a huge part of balance. And that's something that we subconsciously notice is when something is slightly off. If you ever walked into a room and a picture is slightly off kilter, even if you don't notice it right away, your brain kind of is drawn to that because it's off. It's not what it should be, what we expect it to be. And so that alignment is really important. And then the final point that I want to make about balance is very often less is more. If something is not quite right and you're not really sure what it is, go ask ChatGPT what it is. You can also just take some of the design elements out, take some of the text out, and then just start over, right? See kind of how you can balance things when you're not quite so busy, when there's not quite so many elements on the page. So I want to look at a couple of examples here for balance. So this is an example of alignment. You'll notice in this first image, our little icon and our divider are off center. The rest of the image is beautifully designed. The color is clear. The message is clear. What we want people to do is obvious. We have a good call to action, but things are off, and it removes somebody from the experience, the viewer from the experience of the image, right? So we want to make sure that we keep them invested in the graphic, in the message of what you're trying to share. And little things like your alignment being off removes them from that experience, and it can break trust. This is another great example of balance. So this is a poster where we have things that are pushed way out to the very edge of the design. We have text that's covering the main image, her face. right? That image is taking up quite a bit of space. And so there's not a lot of space for the text to go on this one here. And then all of the key information is really just squished down at the bottom. There's not a lot of space there. So we've got this huge piece of empty space. Things are busy. Things are busy. What the heck are we doing? Right? So if we look over here, things are a lot more evenly spaced out. The alignment is a lot better. Things are all left aligned here. We've got a clear message. Things are broken up. There's a visual separator between the title and the key information. We have an icon that we all recognize that represents what it is. The color of the background represents the reduce, reuse, recycle theme. One really, really fun thing that I learned from our designers over the years is when you're using people in photography, in your graphics. So we as humans are really naturally drawn to looking at people in pictures, right? If there's a visual graphic that has a person represented, we're naturally drawn to looking at their face. We're herd animals. We like to be in community. And so we're naturally drawn to that. So when you're using a image of a person, we naturally want to look where that person is looking. So if you'll notice in this image here, the gaze of this person is slightly off to the left where all of the key information is, right? Over here, the text is covering her face. So that feels wrong to us because we're looking for that face. And over here, we're drawn to her and then we see the key information. So that's kind of just a little psychology design tip. It's really subtle. It's really, you necessarily wouldn't notice it. It's definitely not something that I knew before our designers were educating me. And it's one of kind of my favorite little fun facts to talk about with design. So yeah, that's balance. Balance is about subtlety. It's about understanding where people's eyes are drawn and how to utilize the space really, really well. Yeah. The last key point is consistency. Consistency is about sticking to your brand. We've talked a lot about today your visual brand guide. And some of you may not know what that is. Basically, what it is a document that outlines, that structures visually how you should show up in the world. It gives you rules for the text that you use. It gives you rules for how to use your logo. It gives you rules for the type of photography that you should be using, your colors. It gives you instructions on if you're using an overlay, what the transparency should be. It gives you very, very technical rules. And that's why at the beginning I said that graphic design isn't art, because those rules don't exist when you're creating a painting. They do exist in graphic design, especially in marketing. And so we have to follow those rules. If you don't have a visual brand, it's so easy to experience something called brand drift. And brand drift is what happens when you don't have the same color red every single time. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Sure, I'll just jump into that. The brand drift happens usually through incompetence, you're not paying attention, or through excitement. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize I wasn't following the guide. You know what I mean? You're like, well, pay attention. You invested in this guide, use it. And other times, the better example is through excitement. The designer is like, you know what? I want to be creative and I want to create something new because I'm tired of always seeing the same font. The brand is an exercise of less is more for a reason. There's thousands of brands out there in the market, and you want to be seen as consistent and repetitive. And although you're getting maybe a little bit bored with using the same color blue over and over, the market needs to see that consistency to distinguish you from all your other competitors as well. So a lot of brand drift I find is done through good intention, but forgetting that a brand guide is an exercise in intentional constriction. So I just wanted to make that note. Good
Yes.
intentions pave the way to you know what that expression is.
Yes, that is such a great point. You might be getting bored, your audience will not. The same people are not seeing every single one of the graphics that you post on social media. Maybe you have some diehard fans that do, but 95% of the time, that's not the case. And so they're not getting bored. They're also getting inundated with all of the other brands that are out there. And so when they see something consistent and reliable from you, that gives them something to look forward to, honestly. One key thing with brand drift is building trust. So what trust with your audience really means is that they know what to expect from you. They rely on getting consistent products, or when they call, the same message is on the phone, right? They get the same treatment. There's the same experience. And that's a really big thing with being able to trust the brand or the business that you're shopping with, that you're investing your own dollars into. And our responsibility as the people creating the marketing is making sure that part of breaking their trust doesn't have to do with the visual graphics. That is when a brand starts to get drifting and there's different reds coming into play, different text coming into play, even if it's a beautifully designed graphic, it doesn't feel like the brand. And so then we don't know what to expect. Our audience doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with what's being put out because it's not consistent. It isn't who we are. And so they don't know what to expect. This very often comes into play when people start using the Canva templates without understanding how to customize them for their brand. So Canva has a really, really wide library of templates that you can use, and they're all beautifully designed graphics. Anything under the sun, from a poster to a flyer to a slide deck to a social media graphic to videos, right? Anything that you can imagine, there's a template for. However, none of them are going to be branded to you. You have to create those. And so it's really important to remember that when you're using these brand or these templates from Canva, you have to make sure that visually they fit with your brand. They look appropriate. They're using the same format, the same style, the same photography, the same colors. And you can change all of those things in the template themselves. You can. It does take a lot of work, though. And so that is kind of probably one of the biggest pitfalls that I see with people who don't have a brand kit, who don't have the rules outlined, who don't have their set colors. They don't have any sort of structure to the visual marketing because it's all just, I'll just grab something from Canva, but it's not going to represent who you are. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Great question from Ash. Can Canva handle moving pics, GIFs, automations and audio and video effectively is the question. So Canva does support that. You can create animated GIFs from photos. You can upload video and you can create you can upload audio and you can create simple videos, including uploading videos as well. So I would say Canva is not a video editing tool. That said, if you have a video and you want to add it to a graphic and have it animate in or out, or do some play around with the graphics, you can do that. And although we're talking about Canva in terms of designing graphics for social media or posters, you can also create slide decks. I'm working on a slide deck for a presentation I'm doing on Monday, and that is going to include video that I will capture and record elsewhere, and I will upload it in. And one thing to note here, when we're talking about brand guides, when we create brand guides, we're creating the logo, rules around the colors, the fonts, the textures, the patterns, and layout standards. But brand guides very often for larger organizations include audio brands, like a jingle. Think about a radio jingle. This is very common in the radio era. And also some brands will have a branded smell, and certainly branded video elements, which will dictate what title cards look like and animated logo entries to the intro of videos, all that kind of stuff. So great question, Ash.
Yeah. With the video as well, it's great for short form video like reels and things like TikToks. There's a limit of a 10-minute video, so you can't really do anything for YouTube or any of the long form videos. That's something to keep in mind. But for short form video, it's great for easy editing. A few questions about how to set up a brand kit, what kind of colors are recommended for a brand kit. That is so variable. I can't answer that because every single brand is going to be different, right? There are brands that use black and white very, very effectively. Apple is one of them. They do have alternate colors though as well in some of their newer marketing. I am not going to recommend that you have a set number of colors or that there are certain elements that you should or shouldn't include in a brand kit. That is really very heavy on recommend having a conversation with a professional designer because they will be able to suss out really what it is that you actually need, what is a nice to have, and what are the actual colors that are going to represent you and your brand really effectively. What are the fonts that represent your personality and all of that. So I'm sorry that's not a really great, clear answer, but that's about the best I can give right now. Okay, I want to make sure we have time to look at a few examples. So let's compare. This is a graphic that does not follow really any of the ABC design principles, right? This, we've got a lot of contrasting colors, right? It's pretty obvious that this blue and this blue and this purple and this yellow, they don't go well together. They don't mesh. So something is not brand compliant, right? Nothing fits really well there with the colors. There's contrasting colors. The light blue on the light yellow, there's not enough contrast. We can't read what that says. There's way too much text here. Again, we're covering the face of the person in the image. The message really isn't super clear. We've got yum cupcakes, birthday cupcakes delivered, easier office birthdays, and then we've got a whole block of text in a font that's hard to read. So there's a lot of things that are wrong with this image, right? Everything is also pushed way out to the edges. There's no margin. So let's look and see if this was fixed. Oh, now I'm going too far. There we go. There's very little text on this image. There's actually very little in this image in general, right? We have a photo and then we have a logo, we have a message, and we have a call to action or, secondary message, right? Everything is focused within our margins. We have space, but we know what we're supposed to do, right? Our image reflects the message, right? It's easier office birthdays. We have somebody in their office garb eating a cupcake with a party hat, right? We know what this is supposed to be. All of this information can be added into the caption of the post. That's not necessary to add in here. We can put that somewhere else. It doesn't have to be here. So that's kind of the key thing to remember when we're looking at balance again is what can I take out and put somewhere else to make it simple and clean and beautifully branded. All right, Ryan. This graphic here, I've used our brand fonts. I've used our logo. I've used our colors. Why is this not good to put out?
Yeah, you would get a quick page from me and say, Megan, let's have a quick chat. There's lots of little things. So that's our primary logo, which is used properly. It's far too close to the edges. There's not a lot of good padding. The padding isn't equal, the space between the logo and the edge compared to the fonts. You're not using your margins properly. You've chosen a cute clip art picture of a cartoon guy at a computer. Nothing wrong with that in particular, other than it's not a part of the 910 visual brand. So those would be my first initial comments, and see what you do with that.
Yeah. So, man, I really thought I nailed it that time, but you're right. It's not brand compliant, right? These things are not how I'm supposed to be using our brand assets. There's no clear message. We're a digital marketing agency. We can help you grow and manage your business. Okay, that's great. What is my audience supposed to do with that? There's no contact information. There's nowhere for them to go. So everything is it's visually crowded. There's inconsistencies with how the graphic is put together. All right. Now this one. We have real photos of real people from our real team. We have our logo that's brought in better. It's within the margins. Things are aligned, all left aligned properly. We have the message is a little bit smaller, so we have room for a call to action with real contact information, right? And it's simple. It's not overwhelming. Things are easier to process. This would be something that I would put out onto an ad, right? I would use this for maybe a Facebook ad, right? Where it's clear, it's easy to process and easy to read, and it uses kind of our brand compliance standards. Ryan, there's one element in here that I have left in on purpose. And I want to see if you can catch it as a non-designer who's familiar with our brand. You're on mute there.
Yeah, that little graphic at the top is not one of our icons. And actually, I'm just noting here, 910 marketing. There's like a 2 pixel difference where the marketing is indented from 910. That's me getting super picky. And I love that you introduced, by the way, real people. Jill and Marcus are two of our team members that are front facing. Everyone loves Jill and Marcus that works with us. So sometimes, just you already mentioned this earlier, having smiling faces in a graphic goes a long way. So, anyways, that's my quick feedback.
Yeah. And like Ryan mentioned, the people is a big thing. Having real people in real graphics is always going to be better if you can swing it. And if you can't, using people in stock images, human beings like human beings, and it's very easy to connect that way. So, all right, that is the basics of how to create graphics. Canva, I did all of these in Canva. These are really easy to visually drag and drop, use them around, and you'll get a lot of that, those alignment tools like Ryan mentioned. In that other one, it's like a 2 pixel difference. If I would have used the align tool instead of dragging them, then it would have fixed that issue. But the key takeaways here are: one, make sure that your message is clear and apparent. Keep your designs balanced, give them room to breathe, don't make them too busy. Use your visual branding assets, keep them consistent, and use the brand that you have access to. And practice makes perfect. Make sure you practice. Yes, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, just a good quick question from Matt. For social, should we always use post with real images relating to the product, service, etc., or could we use clip art images? We recommend not using clip art images, and for that matter, not choosing stock photos if you don't have to. So when we build out Canva brand kits, where we typically are limited from the client is, do you have any pictures of your team, of your building, of your equipment, of your services? And if you do, then of course those images should be used because they're an authentic portrayal of your products and services. So you should be building out your media asset library over time. And Canva does have a repository to hold those, and you should of course have them well organized on your computer, laptop, server as well. Then from there, Matt, you can go into the world of stock photography and license some. You can get generative AI to create some, but you're going to want to make sure that you're creating or selecting stuff that is well integrated with your brand and following the guidance of your brand guide as well. If you start to just pick and choose clip art out from the world, you're going to have some brand drift, and you're going to use elements that are being used by other brands or use elements, graphics that are just not in sync with the direction of your established brand.
A couple other notes in the Q&A there. Are those pictures of the two team members taken together or separately and put in? Actually, those are two pictures that were taken completely separately, and where the background remover was used. And then those two clear, transparent background images were put into that one graphic. So they look great together, but they are completely different pictures, images that were uploaded and used that way. And then another question about the Canva share link option. Is this useful for sharing with our clients, or is it generally for sharing designs internally with staff? So there are some, I guess it depends on who your clients are. If you're like a digital marketing agency that is designing graphics for approval, I would share maybe the view only link with them so that you don't have to download and re-upload and do all of that. But generally speaking, the share link is for internal team members. So it also kind of depends on what type of Canva account you have, because you can share things a lot easier if you have like a Teams account, for example, versus if you just have one general account and everyone has the same login that they use. All of kind of those things are elements to consider when you're looking at this share link in particular. I know for our team, I will copy the anyone can view link and send it to Ryan so that he has access to review and make comments. But then I can just go in and edit. But it really depends on your workflow and how you use those.
Good clarifying question from Caroline. Will probably be the last question as we're running out of time. And then Megan, you can close us out. And a reminder, you can reach out to us directly. And I always do complimentary consultations if any of you are looking to build out a Canva brand kit. Caroline had a good question. Canva can help with a brand kit, correct? Or do you upload a kit developed elsewhere? Generally, you upload the brand elements that are designed elsewhere. So our process is that we work with a professional designer, like we bring the professional designer and we design your logo and your visual identity system, which is identifying your colors, your fonts, your textures, your patterns. We design your stationery, we design all the layout standards, and then we upload all of those elements into Canva. So Canva is not where we design those. Canva is the repository where we organize those for you in a foldered system that allows you to keep them organized and drag and drop each element, whether it's a font, a color, a picture, etc. And then again, we recommend that you supplement that with professional photos or videos that you've taken of your team, etc. So good question, Carolyn. I will bring it back to Megan to round us out.
Thank you so much. And yes, I'm sure there's a few more questions that will come up, but we don't have time for everyone today. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. Like Ryan mentioned, we're more than happy to chat with any of you about any of this stuff. But just wanted to make sure we had time for a quick little wrap up here. So our next session is the last session of the year. That's coming up next month. We'll be talking about paid advertising and kind of how to get more bang for your buck. It's a pretty technical conversation that can be pretty overwhelming for a lot of people who don't understand the language around paid advertising and what that means. So we'll be demystifying a little bit of that and kind of hoping to get you started on the right track. And then just a little bit of more information. One of the things in our training program that we discuss quite a bit is, we use all of the different platforms out there, but then there's left kind of connecting everything together. And that requires a lot of, other additional paid third-party integrations and all of those things. So one of the things that we've kind of put together is a unified dashboard for all of the different marketing tools, from social scheduling and content creation to CRM, so client relationship management, advertising, analytics, and custom AI programs as well. So that's something that we've developed and launched, and we're really excited about all of the things there. If you're interested, feel free to come chat with us. You're welcome to check out the AI that we have, the chatbots and voice receptionists that we have on our website. If you head over here, you can check those out or hang out with us. Happy to chat with any of you over phone or Zoom as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate the great questions. This was it's always one of my favorite topics to discuss. Some really interesting things always come out of it. So
great job, Megan, as you always do. Just one last quick thing. I've thrown my email into the chat. So if you're looking for a consultation on Canva brand kits, we do develop those for small and medium businesses. Our goal is to allow you to do brand compliant design. So that was clear from today's session. So thanks, Megan, for another great session. And Linda, thank you again for another collaboration with Business Link. We'll let you round us out.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for this webinar. Always learn so much with these webinars. They're so good for anyone wanting to start with anything related marketing for their business. It's excellent content. So thank you guys so much as always. I'll just do a super quick plug for Business Link here. Just before we wrap up, I do want to remind you, everyone, that Small Business Week is coming up soon. So we're celebrating in-person events in Edmonton and Calgary, plus a full week of special webinars designed to inspire you and connect you with Alberta small business community. So if you haven't already, please visit businesslink.ca/smallbusinessweek 2025 or scan the QR code on the screen. And then last but not least, please don't forget to watch for the recording link in your inbox and then complete the short pop-up survey that will show up after the webinar ends. So because your feedback really helps us improve this session. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you all at another Business Link webinar soon. Thank you, guys.